Hello everybody, and in this first video of 2022 we're going to be dealing with electric vehicle charging, probably the most hot topic of this year I expect. So it's going to be a case of I'm going to have to put my job's worth cap on. A few people have said in the comments that I'm a bit of a job's worth for these rules and regulations. I take that as a compliment, but there you go. Right from the outset, I'm going to show you something that's going to make everybody go, ah! Okay, and here it is. From April this year, people with bungalows, detached, semi-detached or terrace housing, basically people who've got a mortgage, will no longer qualify for the electric vehicle charging grants. They're gone. The only people that will be able to claim them will be landlords and homeowners who live in flats. Oh dear. So that's £350 worth of grants gone after April of this year. You will have to pay the full amount. What's not clear there is whether electricians can still claim them in their own right. That's not clear there, and I don't know, so I'm going to have to find out. But there you go. So that's a good way to start the year, isn't it? If you're thinking about getting an electric car, either get it in before April or you're going to have a hefty bill for the charging unit from now on. Anyway, so that kind of really brings it on to who the audience of this video is for. It's really for homeowners and people who are thinking about getting electric cars, but also it's also aimed at electricians as well who are thinking about maybe breaking into this market, and what you need to know, because EV chargers have kind of got their own little entity going on here. They've got their own rules and regulations. They've been changed recently. How you put them in is probably different to anything else, like you might do a hot tub or anything else. The rules are different, they're very specific, and everything else. So let's start with what you shouldn't do. So you drive your new, brand new electric vehicle car. You've driven it up to your driveway and you're thinking, I know, we'll get an extension cable, we'll plug it into a socket in the kitchen and then plug it to the car. There you go, no problem. This is not, and I think a lot of homeowners and the general public don't realise, charging an electric car is not like charging your car battery or a leisure battery in a caravan. It's a totally different animal. These are big, powerful batteries that take an awful lot of current. So yes, there is nothing to stop you from plugging it into a socket in your kitchen if you can find the right cable to do it. There is nothing to stop you doing that. I wouldn't, because the more powerful car that you've got, the more amperage it's going to take, more current it's going to take. These cars can take up to 40 amps of current if they want to, and they will try. They will definitely try, unless they're intelligent enough to vary what current they're going to take. So you get a cable, you plug it into a car that could take 40 amps of current into your 30 amp socket. What do you think is going to happen? Probably that socket's going to fly across your kitchen. Or you're going to blow your 32 amp ring main circuit breaker. Don't do it. I've seen enough of this around the town where I live, where people have done exactly that, and they've just plugged their cars straight into a socket in the kitchen. It's worked, and I'm not saying it wouldn't work, depending on the car you've got there. If the car's really intelligent and can say, oh, I've got a 13 amp plug, okay, I'll only take 13 amps. Well, fair enough. But it's going to take 13 amps all the time until it's charged the battery, and at 13 amps you're probably looking maybe a week before your car will be ready, especially some of the bigger ones. So not recommended, it really isn't. I wouldn't do it. So let's go down with a couple of little bits. Your house has a cutout fuse, and I've done a video about cutout fuses here, and where they're located. And these fuses can be rated at 100, 80, 63, I believe they are, in your house, and that is the amount of current you can take maximum in your property. In reality, it will go slightly above that before that 100 amp or before that fuse will blow. Anyway, so you've come along with your nice new car. Tim plugs it in to his EV charging unit, and the car says, well, okay, fair enough, it's got a 40 amp breaker, it's going to start taking 40 amps. Okay. So if you've got a 100 amp breaker, you've immediately lost 40 amps of your supply. You're down to 60. Okay. Tim decides, right, he's coming for work and he needs a shower. So he's going to go up to his electric shower, he's going to turn it on, and it's a 9 or 10 kilowatt electric shower. And turns it on, and it's immediately going to start taking 39 amps. It won't take it all the time because it's thermostat. It's got a thermostat, so it won't be taking that 39 amps all the time, but it will be to start with. Okay. So you've got your 40 amp car, you've got your 39 amp shower running. At the moment, you've taken 79 amps of all the power in your house. So you've got 21 amps left. Your partner comes in and is going to start dinner. So immediately whacks on the cooker. That's a 4 kilowatt cooker. So you're instantly taking another 20 amps. You've got 1 amp left. In come your children, turn the telly on, plug in their smartphones to get charged, get the Xbox going, bang, your house is in darkness. And you've blown your 100 amp fuse. And the only people that can deal with that is the electricity company, and they'll charge probably a couple of £100 to come out and fix it. Let alone any damage else that you may have done, maybe. But anyway, so yeah, can you see what I'm talking about here? If you've got an 80 amp fuse or 63, you wouldn't have even been able to switch on your electric shower. So, how do you get round this little conundrum of a problem? Well, I personally would recommend you get an electrician in who knows about these systems and get a survey done of your electrics of your house before you go anywhere near the dealership and try and buy a car. Okay? Find out whether your electricity in your house will handle it. Now, if you've got a 63 amp main fuse, the easy thing to do is to get hold of the DNO at that point, or the electricity company, and get a 100 amp fuse put in. That's the first thing you could do. Second thing is, an electrician should go in and look at your consumer board and see if there's spare ways to connect up the electric charging unit. It can't be on an RCD because most electric charging units have their own RCD, and because of selectivity you won't know which RCD will trip, if either trips, if there's an earth fault within the house, and we'll come to earth faults in a minute. So it can't be on an RCD. So more often than not, what you'll probably find is when you're getting an electric charging unit put in, you will have a separate consumer unit put in as well, just a small one, like a garage unit, and it'll be then connected onto that. And this is where it would be really useful if you had an isolator switch put in, and so that the fuse didn't have to be pulled. Again, that's in that video that I did at the end of last year. That's a good reason why you should have an isolator in when you have an EV charger put in. Now, on top of the RCD thing, you can't have them on an RCD that's an AC type RCD. They have to be type A, because EV charging units can leak DC current back into your house and stop the RCDs from working. It's another reason why it's be a practical idea to put in a separate consumer unit. It's not always the case, might not be always the case to do that, but it would make things a lot easier for the installation. Okay, so that deals with the load issues in the house. It's very important to make sure your house is capable of taking an EV charger. The last thing you want to do is bring a nice new shiny car that's cost you £30,000-50,000 and find you've got a bill for another £1,000 to £2,000 because your electricity won't charge it, or may not charge it. So there you go. So let's come down to the bit about why the thumbnail is the way it is. Yes, these chargers are lethal if they're not put in correctly. There's an entire chapter here, 722, in BS 7671, which covers electric vehicle charging installations. I'm then going to say that is irrelevant in this book, because Amendment 1 has come out and Amendment 1 completely changes this. And I will put up Amendment 1 for this on my screen in a minute so we can go through it. And also, this publication as well, the 4th edition, that covers everything, and Amendment 1 and everything else. So this is the other book that electricians should be adhering to if they're installing one of these devices. Okay. So what is the problem with these electric charging units that make them lethal? It's something called an open PEN fault, or a broken PEN fault is another way to put it. And you're all out there going, bloody hell's that? Right, I think now I'm going to draw a little diagram of how electricity comes into your house. Okay, now I will say this, that most electricians, or indeed all electricians, should know this, but obviously a lot of homeowners out there probably don't actually know how your electricity is brought to your house. I'm not going to draw the whole 3-phase system that's out in the street. Yes, it is 3-phase in the street, and becomes single phase when it comes into your house. I'm not going to draw that out because it will get too complicated. So how is the electricity brought into your property? Well, there's 3 actual ways, main ways in the UK that it's done, and they're called TT, TNS and TNCS. Now, I'll deal with TT first because it's the rarest in the UK. Normally you'll see TT systems at farm buildings or way out in the countryside. I've not come across a TT system while I've been an electrician. Even though I live in the country, I've not come across one. TT is basically the earthing for your house is basically on a rod. It's buried in the ground, probably several metres away from your property, and that's how your house is earthed. Okay. The other 2 systems, the earthing comes from the DNO, comes from their substation, and that's why in your meter, if you look inside your meter box, you'll have your 100 amp fuse, and you'll see a green and yellow wire coming out the side of it, and then into a little square thing called an MET, and then off to your consumer board, and then spread out around your house. Okay, and that comes from the transformer station. Now there's 2 ways that that's done. The first way is that earthing is coming from the sheath, outer sheath of the actual cable itself, coming in on the supply. The other way is it's shared with the neutral line coming in on the cable. So you've got your line and you've got your neutral, and then they take the earth off that. And then there's lots and lots and lots of earth spikes going back towards the substation, and then the source earth spike at the substation. Now, I'm going to draw a diagram of how this all hangs together for a TNCS system. And then I'm going to cover why a TNS system in your meter box may not be a TNS system at all. In actual fact, it is a TNCS system. And we'll come to that in a second. So let's get down to the drawing, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's start at the transformer station. So the transformer, got your line, that's heading off here towards your house, and you've got your neutral heading off to your house, and you've got the source earth here. That's your source earth. Okay. This, and in a TNCS system, you've got this going on. Okay. And this is where it comes into your property. You've got your consumer board there, and you've got your earth coming off here into a little block with a lot of screws on it, like that. Then you've got that going off and that going off. So your earth bonding to your water, into your gas if you've got it. Okay. This is called your PE, this is your permanent earth. I'll just mark on that this is your line. Right. Now, in a TNCS system, what you've got here, if I can grab my pens together, this is also called a PME system. And what that stands for is protective multiple earthing. As you can see, it's exactly what's happening. It's connected to earth in multiple points. Now this is actually called your PEN conductor. And what PEN stands for, I'll just write it down here. Your PEN conductor stands for protective earth neutral. So your earth is combined with the neutral line, and it splits inside your meter box. You'll notice it comes out and heads into there. Okay, now let's do that up a bit. So you've got your line, you've got your neutral, and you've got your earth going into your charging unit. And then you've got your nice little black cable coming down here to your car. And here's Tim. Okay, now what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that. That worked absolutely fine. If there was an earth fault in the house, the RCD would take care of it. No problem at all. Alright? However, what would happen if the cable was to break there? You'd have your 230 volts coming down your line, coming up into your EV charging unit, down to your car, and then going back along your neutral, along here. It's supposed to be coming along here, but it can't. Oh, but hang on a minute, I still have a route I can take. So your 230 volts is now coming down here on your earth cabling, making your water and gas pipes live with 230 volts, coming back here and making everything else in your house live with 230 volts, including the EV charger, and your car is now at 230 volts. Now that's not a problem because it's got rubber tyres, so it's insulated from the ground until such time that Tim comes along and touches that car. He is now part of the earthing arrangement, and 230 volts is going through him, and it's bye-bye Tim. That is why, if these EV charging units are put in the wrong way, they are lethal. In 722, there should be no way of any earthing being used in a TNCS system that can go back to the transformer. It has to have its own earthing arrangement, which is TT, or there must be something inside this that can detect when that happens. Now you might be saying, well, why didn't the RCD fire? Well, because there's no difference in the voltage on these two lines. In an earth fault, there'll be a difference between these two lines in the voltage, and that's what triggers your RCD. But there isn't in this case. The RCD is perfectly happy. Now, you might think that this is unique to a TNCS system, and you'd be right. If you did indeed have a TNS system, then this wouldn't occur, because the TNS system takes its earthing from the sheath of the cable. However, come down a bit. Let's say there's a break in a TNS cable. So you've got in the TNS system, underneath your road, there's your line, there's your neutral, and your earth. Let's just draw the cable over the top. There you go. And your earth is coming from the sheath of the cable. Okay, so it should be a straight line. There you go. Now, there's a break in that cable, and it has to be repaired. Well, these days they're not going to repair that cable with one of these older type cables. They're going to replace it with one of the new ones, and they'll only have a red and a blue. So what they do is they hook your earth there, and then they put a load of earth spikes into the cable, and effectively what you've now got a TNCS system, where it looks like it's a TNS system in your property, but it isn't, it's TNCS. If this now breaks there, you've got exactly the same problem. That's why in 722 it mandates that regardless of the system that you've got, you do not use the earthing, or you either don't use the earthing arrangement back to the substation, or you have something in the EV unit which will detect an open pen fault, which is what this is called. So in the original BS7671, there are only a couple of methods that you could detect an open pen fault. Things have moved on since then, which is why there's now Amendment 1, and we'll just have a look at that now. So here we are, this is Amendment 1 of Section 722 relating to electric vehicle charging. The bit that's really changed is this bit here, relating to how vehicle charging units protect against open pen faults. And as you can see here, a PME earthing facility shall not be used as the means of earthing for protective conductor contact of a charging point located outdoors, or that might reasonably be expected to be used to charge a vehicle located outdoors unless one of the following methods is used. So that covers, why you shouldn't use the PME earthing. We've done this in the diagram, obviously. Now, there are 5 items here about how this can be done. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but this is what should appear in the charging unit. So there should be a means of detecting an open pen fault or broken pen fault. Most charging units should have one of these inside it, or at the very least you should have a third party one put in place to be able to detect this open pen fault. Now, like I mentioned, no system is absolutely perfect yet. They've not developed a perfect way of detecting this. Most manufacturers have at least one of these. I know of one that actually does this, number 5, whereby it has multiple ways of detecting it, and even that isn't perfect, but it is better than nothing. So basically, any electrician coming in to do an installation should be well aware of Amendment 1, and should be doing the installation to Amendment 1, and also the blue book that I pointed out earlier. So on the open pen fault detecting devices, many manufacturers now do have them inside them. But as I said, no system is absolutely perfect. There's one manufacturer that I do know actually employs multiple methods of detecting this open pen fault, and they're covered by item number 5 in Amendment 1. But even then, that's still not perfect. It does reduce the risk. So the question is, how common does that fault actually happen? And I can see electricians in my comments going, "Oh, it's ridiculous, why it's something that doesn't happen." It does happen, it doesn't happen very often. And here is a document actually on the loss of the pen conductor. And if we go down here, you'll see this table. Let's bring it into here, there it is. which has been obtained from the UK Health and Safety Executive, and you can see here how often these PEN conductor faults actually occur, going back to 2014. So they do happen. If you consider the number of households in the country, yeah, you could probably say, why on earth do we need to worry about this? It's such a rare event. It was, but it won't be moving forward. Yes, you'll still maybe get the same number of PEN faults a year, but the number of car chargers being installed will be going up exponentially. So the actual risk of injury and death is going to increase. That is why this is here. It's well worth, when you're going to buy your electric vehicle, and say it comes bundled with a charging unit, it's a good idea to try and ask if it has one of these open PEN fault detectors in it. Now, very likely the salesperson that you're going to be talking to probably wouldn't have a clue, but he should know someone that does know. If they don't, then they've got to supply you with a third-party unit which will fit outside to do it. Now you might be asking, well, why can't we just stick a TT rod in the ground and you don't have to worry about an open PEN fault detector? Well, you can. There's nothing to stop you doing that if you've got the room to do it. Unfortunately, any earth rod you put in the ground has got to be 5 metres or more away from anything else in the ground, and that includes properties nearby. Now, if you're in a terrace house, that's impossible. You might just manage it with a detached house, maybe. But what we've also got to realise is that it's got to be away from anything that's in the ground. So it's drains, gas pipes, water pipes, and obviously the electricity supply. It has to be more than 5 metres away, because there is a real possibility that if there is a PEN fault, the electricity could jump from the cable to the earth rod, and you've got exactly the same problem. The voltage will be a lot lower, yes, because it's sort of you had to transverse whatever distance there is to the ground to get there. But there still will be a voltage, and probably enough to maybe not kill you, but certainly hurt you, let's put it that way. So a TT rod just isn't practical in most situations, unless you're really out in the countryside and you've got houses nowhere near you. So it's just not a practical solution, really. That's why this has come up, really. So the next question to ask is, how do you know whether the electrician you've got employed to do this work actually knows what they're doing? Well, that is a little bit tricky, because any electrician could come in and install an EV charging unit from, let's say Amazon or wherever, or a unit that maybe it's come from China, and they could just stick it in with disregarding all the rules and regulations, and just put it in and off you go. Yes, they can. There's nothing to stop them from doing that. However, you are meant to be part of the government's OLEV scheme, gives you access to the grants, but as I said at the start of the video, that's disappearing. But like I say, I don't know if it's disappearing for the electricians as well. That wasn't clear in that document. However, you should still need to be part of that scheme, because certain manufacturers won't let them install their equipment without you being part of that scheme. And you can only be part of that scheme if you've passed a certain course, which is City and Guilds 2919-01 or 02. Only then will you be allowed to join the OLEV scheme, which in turn means you can join the manufacturer's scheme, do their training program, which allows you to be an approved installer for their equipment. You also have to have the 80th edition exam as well. So technically speaking, electricians doing EV charging should have taken the 2919 course. They should be part of the OLEV scheme, and they should be part of the manufacturer's approved installer, or should be on the manufacturer's approved installers list. Oh, forgot to mention that electricians should be part of a competent person scheme as well. Otherwise, you won't get on the OLEV scheme, you won't get on the manufacturer's scheme, and all the rest of it. So I appreciate an awful lot to take in, both for you as a homeowner, if that's why you've come to watch this video, and also if you are an electrician wanting to break into this. Have I done the course? No, but I am going to be doing it at the end of January, with an aim of being able to do these EV chargers come April. That's my plan anyway. And in summary, what I would recommend if you're thinking about getting an EV charge, get an electrician in who knows his stuff. Get them to look at your house, see if your house can actually handle it. If it is an electrician that knows his stuff, he won't be fleecing you for money. He will know exactly what you'll need to be put in. Don't wait until after you've spent £30,000 to £40,000 on your car and then realise you've got another couple of grand, and it will be in that kind of neck of the woods if you have to have a lot of work done to actually get your car charged. So do that before you get the car, and then after you've got the car, or when you're buying the car, check with the car manufacturer that the charging unit that they're supplying has an open pen detector with it, or they will supply a third party unit. If not, if they can't say whether it does or not, personally I would walk away and just say take the card, not the charging unit. Okay. Then get an electrician in to do the installation work. Again, they do know what they're doing. I personally would recommend you to go with someone that is listed under the manufacturer's list of approved installers. Again, yeah, it's up to you. If you don't want to go down that route and you want to go with George down the road or whoever, that's entirely up to you. As I keep saying in all my videos, these rules are not statutory documents, they're regulations. But if something goes wrong and someone is hurt or killed with these EV chargers, then that electrician will be up in court and a lawyer will be there waving this blue book saying, did you follow these instructions? And if he says he didn't, then he's going to be the person at Her Majesty's pleasure for a while. Anyway, I would say another job's worth video. I'm keenly waiting for all the comments that are going to come along. It's going to be very interesting reading. Anyway, Happy New Year to everybody, and there'll be more videos coming shortly. See you on the next one.